The political terrain has shifted radically over these last few months. If you go back to the end of last year when Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's political hold began to get very tenuous, there was an expectation among the Conservatives in this country that this was going to be a change election that centered on economic issues, so centering on tax and the wide unavailability of affordable housing, for instance, debts and deficits. And while that's certainly the backdrop to this election today, it was the reemergence of Donald Trump, his re-entry to the White House for a second term, that totally upended the election that's taking place in this country. And Mark Carney, the Prime Minister, has been able to capitalize on that going into the election today, presenting himself as a figure who is best positioned, in his words, to deal with Donald Trump based on his experience having navigated major crises before. So, of course, he was the governor of the Bank of Canada back in 2008 during the global financial crisis, and in that position took a real leadership role in the G7, helping the world economy navigate that crisis. He moved from there to England to lead the Bank of England, of course, when the Brexit vote happened. So he's calling upon that experience here, telling voters he's the person who knows how to navigate a major global crisis like this one. And I mentioned the role that Donald Trump is playing here. There was a moment when it seemed like a joke when he would talk about Canada as the potential 51st state. It's fair to say that joke didn't land, and Mark Carney has said from the get-go here he never thought that joke was funny. In fact, he never thought it was a joke. He took him seriously from the very beginning. So those two issues are really salient here with voters today. The issue of a threat on sovereignty of this country, and the second issue on trade and how this country will negotiate with, communicate with, push back on Donald Trump as this trade issue continues to heat up. It's been interesting to watch over these last few days how those polls have narrowed. Not only have Liberals gained that ground that they lost to Conservatives over the last few months, they've surpassed them. It has ebbed a bit, and I should mention there was this tragic incident over the course of the weekend in Vancouver, a vehicle ramming in British Columbia that killed 11 people, injured more than a dozen others. And we saw the way that changed the contours of the campaign yesterday. Jagmeet Singh, the head of the New Democratic Party, was at that event just a few moments before that occurred. It changed the tone and tenor of this campaign. Mark Carney scaled back a number of the events that he did yesterday, and he had to kind of navigate these dual roles. Yes, as the sitting Prime Minister and as the candidate for that job going forward here. So folks, go to the polls today. They've just opened, and of course this is a vast country, a large geography. Polls will stay open until about 10 o'clock tonight, but all of the candidates have returned to their ridings, their districts, John. That's where they'll be over the course of the day. They have events here in Ottawa for both Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre tonight. We'll see who comes out on top. But looking at that most recent polling, at that public opinion polling, it seems like the Liberals do have the edge going into the campaign in the election today.